this is like a boxing here. We don't get no news, no talk, no nothing.
Lil Durk is already behind bars waiting for trial, but things just took a brutal turn. A new video has surfaced, reportedly linking him to the murder of Lil Pab and the attempted hit on Quando Rondo. As if that wasn't enough, he's now being connected to the killing of Stephon Mack. I've got all the details. Let's get into it. How Durk incriminated himself. The street's been buzzing ever since October 24th, 2024, when the feds snatched up Durk down in Florida. But what really got everybody's attention wasn't just the arrest, it was what came after. The prosecution started laying out their case, and man, some of this evidence is straight up wild. We're talking about a case involving over 230 GB of digital evidence and 20,000 pages of reports, making it one of the most complex federal prosecutions in recent hip-hop history. But here's where it gets really crazy, and this is what's got the whole culture talking. The prosecutors claim that Durk basically told on himself during an interview with DJ Academics back in 2023. Yeah, you heard that right. They're saying the man incriminated himself on a podcast that millions of people watch. Let me paint the picture for y'all. We're talking about a 2023 interview where Academics asked Durk about online comments urging him to slide for Von, which is street talk for getting revenge for King Von's death. Now, for those who don't know the backstory, King Von was Durk's artist and close friend who got killed in Atlanta back in November 2020 during an altercation involving Quando Rondo's crew. So Academics is asking about these comments, and Durk's response was cryptic as hell. The man said, and I quote,
"You get triggered by the slide for Von comments." I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mentioned a song.
For some reason, I just don't see the comments no more. For some odd reason. I don't know. Might be the water.
Now on the surface, that might sound like nothing, but the feds, they're reading between the lines like they're studying hieroglyphics. The prosecution's interpretation is cold-blooded. They're saying that Durk's statement suggests he took action, specifically orchestrating the 2022 shooting that led to the cessation of such comments. Basically, they're claiming he's saying, y'all ain't telling me to slide for Von no more because I already handled business. Now let's talk about the timing, because this is crucial. The interview happened in 2023, which was after the August 2022 shooting in LA that killed Saviaya Robinson, also known as Lil Pab, who was Quando Rondo's cousin. The feds are connecting these dots like they're playing Connect 4, saying Durk's response was basically a veiled admission that he orchestrated the hit. But here's what makes this whole situation even more complex. According to federal prosecutors, this isn't just about what Durk said, it's about his whole demeanor during the interview. They're analyzing body language, facial expressions, the whole nine. Social media been going crazy with people saying they can see the moment of realization in Durk's face during that interview. The streets are divided on this one, no cap. Some people looking at that interview and saying, yeah, he definitely said too much. Others are saying the feds are reaching harder than a short person trying to get something off the top shelf. Public reaction on platforms like X shows this division, with some users interpreting Durk's response and demeanor as incriminating, while others are skeptical, arguing the statement is too vague to constitute an admission. Now let's get into the legal weight of this supposed confession. U.S. Attorney Bilal A. Asaili filed a motion on May 19, 2025, opposing Lil Durk's attempt to dismiss the murder for hire charges, emphasizing that the case is about orchestrated violence rather than Durk's music or lyrics. They're not just using this interview as a throwaway piece of evidence, they're making it a central part of their narrative. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The prosecution isn't just relying on this one interview. They got financial transactions showing wire transfers from accounts linked to OTF, allegedly used to pay for flights and rental cars for the 5 OTF members involved in the 2022 shooting. They got encrypted communications, witness testimonies, the whole federal playbook. The interview with Academics is just one piece of a much larger puzzle that the feds have been putting together, but it might be the most damaging piece because it came straight from Durk's mouth, on camera, in front of millions of people. What makes this situation even crazier is that Durk's legal team is fighting back hard. His lawyer, Drew Findling, who's represented everybody from Cardi B to NBA YoungBoy, is arguing that prosecutors misused evidence, including Durk's lyrics and fan-made videos, to justify his detention. They're saying the government is taking artistic expression and twisting it into criminal admissions. But that Academics interview, that's not a song lyric, that's not artistic expression. That's Durk speaking directly, in his own words, about a situation that the feds say he was directly involved in. And the timing of it, happening after the alleged crime, makes it even more problematic for his defense. The cultural implications of this are huge too. We're seeing how social media and podcast interviews can become evidence in federal court. Every word these artists say is being analyzed by law enforcement. The days of thinking you can speak freely without consequences are over, especially when you're already on the feds' radar. Let's rewind the clock and break down how we got to this point, because this story didn't start with that Academics interview. This whole situation has roots that go deep into the Chicago drill scene, and the beef that ultimately led to federal charges stretches back years, from the streets to federal court. To understand this case, we gotta start with the foundation, the relationship between Lil Durk and King Von. These weren't just label mates, they were family. Durk saw Von as the future of OTF, his little brother who was supposed to carry the torch. When Von got killed in Atlanta on November 6, 2020, it wasn't just a business loss for Durk, it was personal as hell. Now, the beef between King Von and Quando Rondo wasn't some deep personal hatred that started from childhood or anything like that. The conflict stemmed from rivalries between Von's OTF, Only the Family, and Rondo's NBA, Never Broke Again, collectives, amplified by broader feuds involving Lil Durk and NBA Youngboy. It was really about affiliations and street politics more than anything personal between Von and Rondo specifically. The night Von died, November 6, 2020, everything changed. Around 3 a.m., Von and his entourage encountered Rondo and his crew outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, leading to a deadly altercation.
And go to sleep.
Right. By yourself.
Boom, bam. I walk from the car. I turn around to walk up. I see a group of, it's like I had an out-of-body experience.
What started as a physical fight escalated into gunfire, and Von took fatal shots to the chest and abdomen. Timothy Leaks, Lil Tim, a Rondo associate, was charged with Von's murder, but released under Georgia's Stand Your Ground law.
Well, you pull out and you shoot 4 times.
Yeah, the gun jammed.
Oh, the gun jammed?
Yeah.
After the 4th shot?
Probably like the 3rd shot.
Now, this is where the street code comes into play. In drill culture, loyalty is everything. When your people get touched, you're expected to respond. The streets don't recognize stand your ground laws or legal technicalities. When Leaks walked free, that was seen as disrespect to Von's memory and to OTF as a whole. According to federal prosecutors, Durk wasn't gonna let that slide. The indictment claims Durk offered a bounty of money and music opportunities through OTF to kill Rondo. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. This was calculated, organized retaliation. But here's where the story gets really detailed, because the feds didn't just catch wind of this plot after it happened. They've been building this case brick by brick, and the evidence they've gathered is extensive as hell. On August 18, 2022, an OTF associate informed Durk that Quando Rondo was staying at a hotel in Los Angeles. This was the moment everything got set in motion. Within 24 hours, Durk allegedly coordinated what the feds are calling a professional hit operation. The logistics of this alleged plot are wild. Durk enlisted 5 OTF associates: Kayvon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa Houston. These dudes flew commercial from Chicago to San Diego, then drove to Los Angeles, possibly to avoid direct association with the crime scene. But here's the kicker. Durk and Grant traveled to Los Angeles via a private jet from Miami, arriving the same day. The feds are saying this separate travel arrangement was deliberate, designed to distance Durk from the hit team while still maintaining oversight. Now, the financial trail is what really got the feds excited. The prosecution has evidence that an OTF-related credit card tied to Durk was used for flights, hotel bookings, and even ski mask purchases. We're talking about a paper trail that leads straight back to Durk's organization. But it's not just about the money. The feds got communications too. There's a text message from Durk to an associate that says, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me," which shows he was thinking about operational security, trying to distance himself from the plot. The night before the shooting, the alleged hit team stayed at the Sheraton Universal Hotel, rooms paid for with Durk's credit card. They got equipped with ski masks, luxury sedans, and firearms, including a fully automatic machine gun. This wasn't some random street beef spillover. This was allegedly a planned, coordinated military-style operation. On August 19, 2022, the OTF members tracked Quando Rondo's movements across Los Angeles, following him to a weed dispensary, a clothing store in West Hollywood, and finally to a gas station near the Beverly Center. The feds say they used 2 vehicles to track, stalk, and attempt to murder Rondo, firing at least 18 rounds during the attack. But here's the tragic irony. They missed their target. Quando Rondo escaped unharmed, but Xavier Robinson, also known as Lul Pab, was fatally shot. This young man lost his life over beef he probably had nothing to do with personally. Now, the feds didn't move on this case immediately. They spent 2 years building it, gathering evidence, and that's where the 230 GB of digital evidence comes in. We're talking about audio recordings, possibly from an OTF informant who wore a wire for years, surveillance footage placing Durk in Los Angeles, text messages, financial records, and flight bookings. The arrest itself was straight out of a movie. On October 24, 2024, Durk was arrested near Miami International Airport by the U.S. Marshal Service while allegedly attempting to board a private jet to Italy. The feds say he had booked multiple international flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy, suggesting he was trying to flee the country when he realized his associates had been arrested earlier that day in Chicago. But this case goes beyond just the LA shooting. The feds have also linked Durk to a second uncharged murder for hire plot in Chicago involving the January 2022 killing of Stefan Mack. allegedly in retaliation for Durk's brother Dante Banks' 2021 murder. The pattern the prosecution is painting is of someone who uses violence as a business tool. The case was so complex that the trial had to be postponed from January 7, 2025 to October 14, 2025, due to the voluminous discovery material. We're talking about evidence that would take months just to review properly. The cultural impact of this case can't be understated. This isn't just about Lil Durk. This is about how the feds are approaching drill music and street culture in general. The case highlights the challenges of prosecuting high-profile artists, particularly in genres like drill, where violent imagery is a stylistic convention. DJ Academic, who's been covering this case extensively, made an interesting point about how this changes the game. He said,
You know, these guys used to be like, yeah, like, I might not be told about my experience. I might be told about my experience from the past or the homies. The new rapper that fans flock to, they're talking about going on now. Things they did, hits they sent.
the streets are watching this case closely because it's setting precedents for how the feds can use social media, lyrics, and public statements against artists. Every interview, every song, every social media post is potentially evidence if you're already on law enforcement's radar. But we're not done yet. Up next, we're going to break down the current status of this case, including the motion to dismiss that Durk's team filed, the controversial use of rap lyrics as evidence, and what this all means for the future of hip-hop culture. Trust me, this story gets even more complex from here. The legal battle and what it means for hip-hop culture. Now we're getting into the real nitty-gritty, the part where legal strategy meets street politics, and the whole hip-hop culture is watching to see how this plays out, because this ain't just about Lil Durk anymore. This case is setting precedents that are going to affect every artist in the game, especially those coming from the trenches. Let's start with the bombshell that dropped on April 18th, 2025. Durk's legal team, led by Drew Finling, filed a motion to dismiss the superseding indictment, arguing that prosecutors presented false evidence to the grand jury. Now, when defense attorneys file these motions, they're usually throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. But this motion, this one's got some real substance to it. The centerpiece of this motion involves the song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy by Babyface Ray featuring Lil Durk. The prosecution claimed that specific lyrics from this track, including Told Me They Got an Addy, go go, got location, go go, green light, go 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 go, and look on the news and see your son, you screaming no no, were evidence that Durk celebrated and profited from the August 2022 shooting. But here's where it gets spicy. The defense argues that these lyrics could not reference the shooting because the song was recorded 7 months prior, around January 2022, as confirmed by producer Just Veebs. If this timeline is accurate, then the prosecution basically presented evidence to the grand jury that was demonstrably false. This is huge because it goes to the heart of how prosecutors have been using rap lyrics in criminal cases. The defense also addresses the prosecution's reliance on fan-made social media videos that overlay the song's lyrics with news footage of Quando Rondo's emotional reaction to Robinson's death. They're arguing that Durk has no affiliation with these videos, which were created by YouTubers and Instagram users. The broader implications of using rap lyrics as evidence have got civil rights organizations and legal experts heated. Eric Nielsen, who literally wrote the book on this topic with Rap on Trial, has been vocal about how prosecutors are dangerously sloppy in treating lyrics as literal confessions. The man's been pointing out that this practice disproportionately targets black artists and misrepresents artistic expression as criminal admissions. But let's keep it real about the situation Durk is facing. The feds didn't build this case just on lyrics and interviews. They got that 230 GB of digital evidence we talked about earlier, and some of it is pretty damning. Reports suggest an OTF member, possibly identified as Jam, wore a wire for several years to gather evidence. When your own people are cooperating with the feds, that's a problem that goes way beyond artistic interpretation. DJ Academics broke down the challenges Durk's defense team is facing.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because sure, everyone could cooperate, but if everyone's cooperation story is completely different and they're just cooperating just to get out of doing life in prison, Drew Finley's going to tear him up on the stand.
The feds are going to try to turn a few more people. They got to turn a few more people. Because even if you have the shooter not talking to Durk.
The payment aspect of this murder for hire charge is where things get legally complex.
And without the payment, it's going to be a little hard to prosecute him.
So for murder for hire, if you look at what's needed to prove that, we need an agreement. It's almost, the higher part means a lot.
But here's where the feds might have an advantage. Federal prosecutors decided not to seek the death penalty against Durk, confirmed by court documents filed on June 2nd, 2025. While this removes the ultimate threat, Durk is still looking at potentially life in prison if convicted on the current charges. The bail situation has been a whole story in itself. U.S. District Judge Michael Fitzgerald denied Durk's third bail request on June 9th, 2025, which proposed a $4.5 million bond package, 24 hours 24-hour home detention, electronic monitoring, and private security oversight. The judge's reasoning was cold. He basically said the money wasn't enough relative to Durk's net worth and wouldn't deter him from fleeing. But the most problematic issue for Durk's bail prospects has been allegations that he violated federal detention rules by using the phone accounts of at least 13 other inmates and engaging in three-way calls. When you're already fighting murder-for-hire charges, showing disrespect for rules in custody doesn't help your case. Freeway Ricky, who knows a thing or two about federal cases, explained why this type of case almost never gets bail.
Look, when it comes to a murder for hire, bond is automatically denied. And you have to convince the judge that you have a really good reason for them to go against the norm. But generally, in a murder for hire, in a Fed case, you're not getting out.
The witness intimidation allegations make the situation even more serious. Prosecutors have cited witness intimidation as justification for Durk's continued detention, noting that witnesses and their families had been threatened. In federal court, once you get labeled as someone who might interfere with witnesses, your chances of getting out pending trial basically disappear. Now let's talk about the cultural impact of this case, because it's bigger than just one artist. The way prosecutors are approaching drill music and street culture has changed the game for everybody. Artists are now putting disclaimers in their music, trying to preemptively protect themselves from lyrics being used against them in court. The irony is that drill music has always been about authenticity, telling real stories from the streets, but now that authenticity is being weaponized against the artists. The case reflects broader debates about using public statements, lyrics, and social media activity as evidence in criminal cases, particularly when it comes to Black artists in genres that reflect urban realities. DJ Academics made a crucial point about how this changes the landscape for artists.
These guys, they're talking.
Let me think. That's actually a good question. I mean, people were dying over at Death Row Records. Were they really incorporating it into lyrics? Not so much. Well, not so much.
The difference between the Death Row era and now is social media and the level of documentation.
Now with social media, yo, we follow the shooters. The shooters got 60,000 followers.
Right.
You know why? Because the rapper's gonna say, yo, Tim, he a crash out. He just popping in his head.
This level of transparency and documentation is what's making it easier for law enforcement to build these cases. Every Instagram story, every tweet, every interview is potentially evidence. The streets ain't as anonymous as they used to be. As we look toward the trial scheduled for October 14, 2025, this case is going to be watched by the entire hip-hop community. The outcome could set precedents for how artistic expression is treated in criminal court, how social media evidence is used, and how the feds approach cases involving street-affiliated artists. The motion to dismiss hearings scheduled for August 11, 2025 might be the most important moment in this case. If the judge agrees that the prosecution misled the grand jury with false evidence about the lyrics, it could seriously damage their case. But if the motion is denied, Durk and his team are going to have to face a trial with an enormous amount of evidence against him. The case highlights the tragic cycle of violence in the rap community, particularly within Chicago's drill scene, where personal feuds and gang affiliations can escalate into deadly conflicts. What started as beef over King Von's death has now consumed multiple lives and potentially ended one of drill music's biggest careers. For the culture, this case represents a crossroads. Are we going to continue accepting violence as part of the authenticity of street rap, or are we going to find ways to separate the art from the streets? Because one thing this case makes clear, the feds are watching, they're listening, and they're building cases that can put you away for life based on your own words. The streets are still waiting to see how this plays out, but one thing's for sure, the game has changed forever. Every artist coming up needs to understand that in the digital age, everything you say and do can and will be used against you. The question now is whether Lil Durk can beat these charges, or if he's going to become another cautionary tale about what happens when street politics meets federal prosecution. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.